I'd like to call this special meeting of the Anchorage Assembly to order. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Ms. Allard.
Here.
Mr. Peterson.
Present.
Ms. LaFrance.
Here.
Mr. Dunbar. Mr. Rivera.
Present.
Ms. Quinn Davidson.
Here.
Mr. Constant.
Here.
Ms. Kennedy.
Here.
Mr. Perez-Verdilla.
Here.
Ms. Zalatel.
Here.
Mr. Wedgelton.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're going to move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Deputy Clerk Vinna Clausen, if you could please lead us in the pledge. Thank you. Next, we have the land acknowledgement. Ms. Zalatel.
A land acknowledgement is a formal statement recognizing the indigenous people of a place. It is a public gesture of appreciation for the past and present indigenous stewardship of the lands we now occupy. It is an actionable statement that marks our collective movement towards decolonization and equity. The Anchorage Assembly would like to acknowledge that we gather today on the traditional lands of the Dena'ina Athabascans. For thousands of years, the Dena'ina have been and continue to be the stewards of this land. It is with gratefulness and respect that we honor the contributions, innovations, and contemporary perspectives of the Upper Cook Inlet Dena'ina.
Thank you. I wanted to take a minute at the start of the meeting to talk about the expectations of respect and courtesy in these chambers. The Assembly welcomes and expects the public's input into how your government functions, and there are plenty of opportunities to do so. Members of the public can put their comments into the official record via email, phone, or in person. 3 times more options than existed a year ago. Members of the public are also welcome and expected to sit calmly through our proceedings as we deliberate amongst ourselves and vote on the business before the body. To be perfectly frank, we have shifted away from these norms over the last few months. While I understand the anger shared by some in the community over the actions of the administration and Assembly regarding the response of COVID-19 and various items this body has deliberated, there are appropriate ways to participate in our meeting. I urge the public to use the process we currently have in place to let your voice be heard. We must maintain order in these meetings so we can get through our business, and I will use all the powers I have available to me to do so. I know that members of the public come to these meetings because they love and want what is best for our city. I am asking everyone to express this care we all share in a way that builds up our community and brings us together. With that, we're going to go ahead and move on to our item of business. I was hoping that we could have a little bit of a presentation and discussion regarding filling the vacancy, a special versus regular election, but our attorneys are running a little bit late. So we will have that short presentation after we reorganize. So, before the benefit of the body and the public, I want to talk about the process we are about to undertake. First, the basics. During a normal reorganization that is required by code to occur every April after the Assembly certifies the election results, a member would simply make a motion to reorganize, and if a majority vote in support of the motion, the clerk then runs the election for the chair and the vice chair. Before and during this election, there is no deliberation. Nominations are taken, votes are done by secret ballot, and the clerk announces the winner of the election. Another basic. When the seat of the chair becomes vacant, which will happen on Friday, October 23rd at 6 p.m., the vice chair assumes the role of the chair until the next opportunity to reorganize. That opportunity will happen on Tuesday, October 27th, during our next regular assembly meeting. So those are the basics. I'm actually going to stop there before I talk about how we're going to do today, since our attorneys have arrived. And I will go ahead, I know you two just got here, but I will go ahead and turn it over to them to speak to us about their legal counsel regarding a special versus regular election to fill the vacancy of the mayor. I want to be clear to the public and the body, we aren't going to be making a decision today. Today is simply to hear from our legal counsel and have a preliminary discussion. We will make a decision at some future meeting. With that, thanks for arriving. I will turn it over to the municipal attorney and assembly counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in this case, Assembly Counsel and myself, as well as other attorneys in my office, all collaborated together and really put our heads together to look at a somewhat complicated charter provision. And we have prepared a memo that we have sent and are agreeing to release to the public, so we're waiving attorney-client privilege on it, to help explain the legal analysis, that is the consensus legal analysis among the attorneys who've looked at this opinion and looked at the charter provision. So I'd like to briefly describe what is in that memo, although it's a 7-page memo and I'm not going to go into all the details. And Assemblymember Gates should feel free to interrupt or chime in whenever. The question we looked at is, what are the Assembly's options for filling the vacancy created by Mayor Berkowitz's resignation, which is going to be effective October 23rd, 2020? Our short answer is that the Anchorage Municipal Charter requires the Assembly to fill the vacancy in roughly one of 3 ways. 1, through a special election to be held on or after Thursday, January 21st, 2021. And in that election, the voters would be electing a new mayor who would serve only until June 30th, 2021. Second option, the Assembly can fill the vacancy through a regular election to be held on April 6th, 2021, to elect the next mayor who would take office on July 1st, 2021. And that would be similar to past practice, which we've only had one example of. There's only been one vacancy in the mayoral post, and that was when Mark Begich was mayor and was elected to U.S. Senate. And we can discuss in a little bit more detail in a moment what happened in that case. The third option, though, is that the Assembly could fill the vacancy through the regular election to be held on April 6, 2021, but then seat the successor at some earlier date, so not waiting all the way until July 1st. And that earlier date would need to be provided in code, and that would require a simple code amendment, which should be adopted soon if this option is desired. Regardless of the option that the Assembly chooses, the chair of the Assembly will serve as acting mayor in the interim, and then return to the Assembly as chair once the successor mayor has taken office. Performing as acting mayor does not create a vacancy in the Assembly chair's elected seat. So the provision that we are analyzing, I'll just read. It's Anchorage Municipal Charter Provision, Section 702C. It says a vacancy in the office of mayor shall be filled at a regular or special election, held not less than 90 days from the time the vacancy occurs. If less than 90 days remain in the term when the vacancy occurs, the vacancy shall not be filled. And when a vacancy occurs in the office of mayor, the chair of the assembly shall serve as acting mayor until a successor is elected and takes office. The acting mayor has the veto power but may not vote on assembly action. The assembly, by ordinance, shall provide for further succession to the office of acting mayor. It's the first two sentences that are most relevant to the options. And so we can just sort of talk a little bit more if there's further interest in getting detailed. But for that first option, or rather, let's taking them sort of sentence by sentence. Sentence 1, a vacancy in the office of mayor shall be filled at a regular or special election held not less than 90 days from the time the vacancy occurs. What we do is we look at plain meaning. We're just trying to understand what the voters understood when they adopted this. And so we see by its terms that it's an instruction to fill a mayoral vacancy through an election. It forbids the election from happening too close in time to the vacancy, requiring that it be held not less than 90 days from the vacancy. The charter only prohibits acting too quickly. It does not expressly place an outer time limit on the election. And the provision also states that the vacancy can be filled at either a regular or a special election. The language of this sentence stands in contrast to other charter provisions. So it's different for school board, where the charter does not allow the option of special elections and it mandates an appointed replacement until a successor is elected at the next regular election. And with respect to a vacant assembly seat, a temporary appointee is optional, and an elected replacement is selected at the next regular or special election. The assembly's discretion on when to hold an assembly election is defined to prevent acting too slowly rather than too swiftly. It requires a special election to be held within 60 days of the vacancy, but only if the vacancy occurs more than 6 months before the next regular election. So what that means is that in this case, if this was an assembly seat rather than the mayor's seat that was vacant, the provision would steer the assembly towards filling the seat at the April 6th election, because that is within 6 months of today. Similarly, one thing that we mentioned in the memo is state law on this matter also talks about when you fill a mayoral seat. But it doesn't control because we're a home rule municipality. That said, the state law would have provided, and so this is applicable to general law and first-class municipalities, but it doesn't contradict if we filled in with our charter provisions differently. And that states, a vacancy in the office of mayor occurring 6 months before a regular election shall be filled by the governing body, and the person appointed serves until the next regular election, when a successor is elected to serve the balance of the term. If the vacancy occurs more than 6 months before a regular election, the governing body shall call a special election to fill the unexpired term. So again, if we were operating under the state law default, given that we're within 6 months of the April election, state law would say for those municipalities that they need to wait till the April general election. But lucky you guys have the choice. You have 3 options. We consider them all legally defensible. So the special election option would require the assembly to schedule a special election, and the consideration that we put in the memo is just an encouragement to consider a date towards the beginning of the allowable time frame if the assembly chooses the special election option. The very beginning of that time frame is 90 days after the mayor's announced resignation date of October 23rd, so that's January 21st, 2021. And the reason that we would urge a special election to be held on the early side, if a special election is to be called, is because this election will run up quite close to the regular election. And if the special election is too late, there's actually a chance of ballots crossing in the mail if there's a runoff. The option of regular election to be held on April 6, 2021, to seat a successor on July 1st, 2021, is what happened during the Mark Begich vacancy. At that time, Mark Begich resigned on, I have the dates in here, let me pull up the dates, January 3rd, and that was 179 days, about 180 days before the end of the term. And it was 94 days before the regularly scheduled election that year. So that resignation was timed such that the regular election counted and complied with charter. It was more than 90 days away. But then the winner at that election, which was Dan Sullivan, did not take office until July 1st. So that's the precedent we have. We don't have a record of legal analysis being conducted for why they chose that method. We have searched. There is a newspaper article, which I cite to in the memo, which alludes to, it was done several years later, but it alludes to the fact that maybe the cost of a special election was a factor in choosing not to have a special election. That method of filling a vacancy, just sort of having the regular election and not actually seating someone during the existing term, is also what happens in school board regular elections, if it was the last year for the school board member, and in assembly member elections, if it's within 6 months of the end of the assembly member's term. And then the third option is have that regular election, but seat the successor sooner. And that would require this assembly to determine what that sooner date would be. It could be, X number of days following certification of the election. So in conclusion, we found the charter provides multiple acceptable paths for fulfilling the requirements to fulfill the vacancy. The options may have some varying degree of legal risk and some varying degrees of cost and some varying degrees of transitional ease or harm to the municipality. But this is a decision that is in the Assembly's hands, and all three of the options I've laid out are legally defensible.
Thank you. So just want to reiterate for the public and for the body that we haven't seen the memo, read the memo yet, so we're not making any decisions today. We will be making a decision at some future meeting, but if there are some preliminary questions or discussion, we can entertain that briefly. Mr. Weddleton.
Thanks. I wonder if the Barbara or someone can say, what would it cost to do a regular election with a runoff?
Through the chair, a regular election or a special?
Or a special, I mean citywide is what I'm looking for.
We did an estimate to calculate what the cost for a special election would be. We estimate it to be about $350,000. Interestingly, I think that Mr. Clayman said in 2009, I believe, that the cost was about $350,000. In addition, if there was a runoff, so it would be a special runoff election, there would be a cost for that as well. It would not be $350,000, but it would probably be closer to maybe $300,000. It would still be a close cost. There would be some costs that wouldn't be the same, but printing and mailing is the largest cost. So there would still be a cost for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm not seeing anyone else in the queue. So I'm going to go ahead and move back and finish my statement regarding reorganization. So I covered the basics. Now what we're doing today. So this is not a normal reorganization. by any stretch of the imagination. That said, I want to follow all of the traditional process except one part. Before a motion is made to reorganize and the clerk takes over the process, I will invite members to make either general statements or statements advocating for any member they so choose to fill the chair or vice chair roles. I want to be very clear. Members are expected to stick to making statements and not engaging in debate or questions. There will be no back and forth. Most of this body has worked together for years, and our records, positions, and statements are public and well known. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future to ask questions and engage with the acting mayor after October 23rd. I want to reiterate for the body and the public, during a normal reorganization, no statements of any kind would occur. I know the process of making statements might make some of my colleagues uncomfortable, but I ask for your indulgence during these unprecedented times. Last, I fully expect this process to be congenial and for members to conduct themselves professionally. With that, is there a motion to, are there any statements? Yeah, I'm not going to go down the dais. So if you want to get in the queue, that is how you can make statements. So I do have Ms. Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was actually a question for the previous conversation. But I just want clarification on what you believe our comments should be about or limited to, and then I may continue to comment.
Sure. So as I stated before, they can be general statements or statements advocating for any individual you would like to fill the chair or vice chair roles.
Okay. All right. Well, then I guess I will go ahead maybe and kick that off, if that's okay, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, just in thinking through a lot of this, there were several things that I was taking into consideration, and I think one of the ones that was important to me was just the idea of experience. And I would say that probably everyone on the Assembly believes they have some experience or expertise in some way, shape, or form. But I recognize that there's a big difference between being in the legislative body on the Assembly and the idea of being in the mayor's position. And to me, the difference to a certain extent is kind of the legislative policy difference versus a management business related business. And with that, I believe that John Weddleton would be our best bet, and mostly because of his experience in the business world. And I think that is, like I said, a very different realm. Being in the mayor's office, it does function more like a business approach where you're managing a variety of departments and certainly personnel. And I know Mr. Weddleton has that experience in his business life. And then I also think that what the ability for somebody to manage the Assembly in the way that you do, Mr. Chair, has a great deal of value too. And so I would like to see you, Mr. Chair, go to the position of Vice Chair so that when we do shift again on Friday, you would actually stay in the role that you are currently in. I think you provide the stability that the Assembly would need, and is because we're kind of upsetting the entire apple cart right now, I hope that we would do less of that. Or as least amount of that as possible. I think we're dealing with a lot of things, and the Assembly has to stay on track and focus. I think you're fair and reasonable in how you run your meetings, and I think you treat each one of us that way, so I think that's important as well. I I think that the other thing we need to consider is a little bit of the political volatility of our community right now. We have several people on the Assembly currently running for election to an office. I think it's important to allow them to do that without the distraction going on with the mayor, with having to run the business of the city. So I would hope that we would be very cautious about how that plays out in the community. So I'm just looking for some stability, some continuity, and just looking for somebody that really would be most experienced. And like I said, I believe Mr. Weddleton would be able to act very wisely and fairly in the role of mayor, and because of his experience, and I believe the same thing about you, Mr. Chair, in terms of keeping your role as the chairman of the Assembly. So I will leave it at that, and thank you for the time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Zalato.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I find it today to be quite a sad day. It's a sad day when a public official has to step down because they've lost the public and public trust. So today's decision is one that I come to with a heavy heart and realize the gravity of the responsibility on all of us as we move forward. I'm hoping that today's decision will usher in a period of stability so that we can focus on the work of the municipality. We all know we have challenging times ahead, and we'll need to work collaboratively, the mayor, the Assembly, and the community in order to meet these challenges head on so that we can have a municipality that is welcoming and prosperous for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. LaFrance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Ms. Zelatel that this is a sad day and there's a very big decision before us. I want to speak to my intent to nominate Mr. Weddleton. On the body, we spend many, many hours in meetings and work sessions with each other. We have a clear idea of the strength and weaknesses of each member. It's my belief that almost everyone on this body puts the needs of the community first, and almost all here are qualified to serve as acting mayor. With the challenges brought on by the pandemic and the impact on the community, we need stability first. We need a caretaker who will ensure we remain on the right path. We need an experienced, fiscally responsible acting mayor. As a longtime small business owner, Mr. Weddleton also has a unique perspective into the impacts of our decisions on our local business owners. With his community council, planning and zoning commission, assembly and business experience, I believe he has the background as well as the commitment to serve in this role. Having worked closely with Mr. Weddleton these last few years to represent the district, I have immense respect for his work ethic and his ability to collaborate with constituents and stakeholders to find balanced solutions. His calm, reasonable centrist voice will help guide our community through these challenging times of public health concerns and economic recovery. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Dunbar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to start by saying that I agree with Ms. Kennedy on at least 2 points. The first is I agree that someone that is running for office should not be serving as acting mayor, and that includes me. There was a blogger who wrote an article a couple days ago speculating that I was going to be installed to give me the advantages of incumbency. Like that blogger often writes things that are nonsensical, and that there was never a plan to do that, and I don't intend to put myself forward, because I do think that whoever's in this role needs to be singularly focused on getting us through the current crisis. The second thing that Ms. Kennedy said that I agree with is that I hope that you return as chair. I think you have done a very good job, and I intend to nominate you as vice chair unless somebody beats me to it. I hope that whoever we select focuses both on the current health crisis and the budget, and is a steady hand that gets us through the upcoming budget season. And the last thing I'll just say is that there are a great many people on this dais who I have faith in and I believe would do an excellent job as the acting mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rivera.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. For those who know me, and I mean really know me, they know that I do not seek position for the sake of title. I decided to put my name forward as chair for the first time in 2019 because I believed it was for the best benefit of this body. And while some may not agree, and I certainly am not perfect by any means, I think I have done a stellar job in this position through what has been a very tumultuous time. I put my name forward to serve as chair a second time in April of 2020 because I believed there was still much more work to be done. I still believe that. There is much more work for me to do as chair of this body. Now, anyone who decides to be chair should be ready at any given time to step up to the plate and become acting mayor. That is a given expectation for those who seek the honor of serving as chair. So let the record be clear that I could step into the role and absolutely fulfill the duties of acting mayor until the vacancy is filled. Otherwise, I would not have sought to be chair twice. But right now, I believe it is in the best benefit of the Assembly, the public, and the staff of the municipality of Anchorage that Vice Chair Austin Quinn Davidson is chosen by a majority of this body to become the chair and thus acting mayor until the vacancy is filled. I also believe it is in the best benefit of the Assembly that I serve as vice chair and thus as chair after Friday, October 23rd, and continue my stewardship and leadership of this body. My recommendation is not made lightly. I was not forced into this position. I am not showing weakness by making this decision. I chose this because I want to make sure that we, as a body, do what is best for the city. And I know Vice Chair Quinn Davidson to be a person who is compassionate, a dedicated public servant, superb listener, critical thinker, and most importantly, in my opinion, level-headed and even-keeled. And while I possess all of these same qualities, I believe my role under these circumstances is serving as chair of the Assembly. To the hundreds of individuals who have reached out to me since Tuesday and encouraged me to become acting mayor, I hope this does not disappoint you. If you don't know Vice Chair Quinn Davidson yet, you will come to trust her just as I do. To those in the community who were excited for our first person of color to become mayor, because frankly, it is way overdue, don't you worry. It will happen sooner or later. If I were a betting person, I'd bet on sooner. And for those who reached out to the Assembly and wanted Ms. Allard or Mr. Weddleton to serve as acting mayor, I hope you will give Vice Chair Quinn Davidson a chance if a majority of this body chooses her for this role. I know some think many on the Assembly do not listen or care about your opinion. Vice Chair Quinn Davidson is an excellent communicator who sincerely cares about what you have to say and will listen to all parts of our community. To end, regardless of who is chosen today, the Assembly Chair and Acting Mayor must work more collaboratively than ever to ensure we keep a steady course for the city. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera.
Mr. Weddleton.
Well, thanks. Enough about us. Let's talk about them. The mayor resigned, so this is really mostly for people of Anchorage. The mayor resigned, but his staff did not. And the 8th floor, a strength of Mayor Berkowitz was the ability to attract some super intelligent, hardworking people who really give their all for Anchorage. And when he resigned, they didn't. So whatever choice is made here this evening, the city's in good shape. We're not adrift. The work is done by people on the 8th floor, and they're remarkable people all the way down throughout the city government. So we'll make a hard decision here. I think we have a deep bench. We're going to get someone great to fill this spot. And with the team that's there now, the city's in good shape. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Perez Verdilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to echo some of the comments my colleagues have made, that we're working through a very difficult time in our city, and I didn't want to be in the position, and I don't think any of us wanted to be in the position we're in now to make the decision we're making today. I agree that we need somebody who is going to step into the temporary mayor position, who is going to help to steward us through this challenging time, that's not going to bring big new ideas, but is going to help us to focus on the things that are most important right now, and that is our economy, COVID-19, our schools, our businesses, and really focusing on making sure that we're doing the work that this city needs to do. So it's been an interesting process for me to think through, because we do have such a deep bench. We have so many qualified people on this assembly who could step into this role. So as I thought through it, certainly the two names that are emerging now were at the top of my list. Mr. Weddleton certainly has been at the top of my list of somebody who could do this job and do it well and has the confidence of this entire body. And also Ms. Quinn Davidson is somebody who I have worked very closely with over the last 2 years and have come to trust and know really well. She is somebody who does what she says she's going to do. And she listens to everyone, regardless whether she agrees with them or not. She's one of the most dependable and compassionate people I've ever met. And so, as difficult as this decision is for me, I intend to put my support behind Ms. Quinn Davidson and feel like that she's the right person to steward us through this difficult time. And I also want to continue to support our current chair, Mr. Rivera. I think he's done a good job of keeping us in line and making sure that we're focusing on the things that are most important. So I want to thank the body for whatever decision they're going to make, and whomever emerges as the temporary mayor and as chair, I will certainly support those people. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Seeing no further
I'm just ready to move to reorganize when the chair
Yep.
makes the call.
Seeing no further discussion, we can make a motion to reorganize.
Move to reorganize.
Second.
I believe we have a motion and a second on the floor.
Yes. With that, it is, Mr. Dunbar is correct. This is not a debatable motion. So with that, members may proceed to vote.
Ms. Kennedy?
Yes.
That motion is approved 11-0. With that, I turn it over to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Currently, we'll be taking nominations for the chair. Are there any nominations?
I move Austin Quinn Davidson.
It's a move.
Are there any other nominations?
I move Mr. Weddleton.
Are there any further nominations? The nominations are closed. The clerk and the deputy clerk will pass out ballot cards for you, and you will vote your ballot card. The ballot cards remain secret. The clerk and deputy clerk will tally the cards. We will be stepping out of the room to call Ms. Kennedy. I will speak to Ms. Kennedy on the phone, and then the deputy clerk, Jennifer Benaclazin, will also speak to her to confirm her vote, and then we'll be back to announce the result.
see. I need to ask a clarifying question.
Yeah, we'll do it on the record. You want to do it
Oh.
on the record?
Mr. Chair, can I ask a clarifying question? I'm sorry. Or can I ask the clerk?
Yeah,
The clerk.
I'm not in charge.
Oh, thank you. Can you just explain, we had one nomination. We had two nominations. Thank you. I missed that. Thank you very much. That's all I wanted to clarify. Thank you. Somehow I missed this is the second one.
Ms. Kennedy, are you back on the line?
I'm here.
Could you confirm that again, Ms. Kennedy?
Yes, I'm here.
Great, thank you. Ms. Quinn Davidson is the new chair. Through the new chair,
Oh, we can't request to speak because it's still voting.
Mr. Dunbar.
I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, are we taking nominations for vice chair?
yes,
I
I
nominate,
believe we should take nominations for vice chair.
I nominate Felix Rivera.
Are there any other nominations for vice chair?
I nominate John Weddleton.
Are there any other nominations? The nominations are closed. The clerks will pass out the cards for vice chair. After you vote, we'll again step out of the room and contact Ms. Kennedy, and then we'll be back. Ms. Kennedy, are you online?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. The new vice chair is Felix Rivera. I'll turn the meeting back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With that, we'll go ahead and move to audience participation. Any member of the public can provide audience testimony. Please line up here. You'll have 3 minutes to speak on any topic. If possible, to maintain 6 feet of distance, that would be great. Thank you. Mr. Fields, could you turn your mic on?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'm Zach Fields. I live at 1320 K Street, 99501. I just wanted to speak in support of the Assembly's actions tonight. At a time of turbulence, the Assembly has provided steady leadership and common sense policies to protect public health and the economy. Tonight's vote is an affirmation both of stability and common sense. Ms. Quinn Davidson is as analytical and calm as she is compassionate, and that is the combination of attributes we need in a leader for the city right now. Mr. Rivera's fair and inclusive stewardship of the Assembly, as Ms. Kennedy noted, will continue as it should. Failure of the state and federal governments to contain COVID means that there's simply been much more strain on our local public health infrastructure and on our local economy. All of you have done a good job in responding to those stresses. You've responded with common sense policies, including face masks, contact tracing, disbursement of a balanced aid package for small businesses, nonprofits, jobs programs, food relief for hungry families, just to name a few. There's been very little media about the aid package that the municipality passed, but it really was a model for balance. There is a small, noisy group that continues to deny the reality of COVID, even as more than 200,000 Americans have died, and they ask you to put in place public policies that would endanger the vast majority of people who recognize that the virus is real, these deaths are real and tragic, and we have to stop the dying that is avoidable with sensible public health policies. I think most of us recognize that our community needs basic public health safeguards to contain the virus, along with targeted aid for families and businesses. Thanks for your service, for maintaining stability in this body, and for keeping a steady hand on the tiller as you navigate very turbulent waters.
Thank you.
My name is Eugene Carl Haberman, Alaska resident for 43 years, resident of Matsu Valley, 20 of those years, by the way, in those 43 years living in Anchorage. I follow the public process. When the public process done appropriately, decision made by the governing body is more likely in the public interest. These words are expressed over several years, and you've heard them all. Now, first I would like to remind you, this is a public meeting. Though tonight was most respectful, remind everyone in this room and those listening, at a public meeting we need to listen to each other respectfully. This is not a place for applause. This is not a rally. This is a public meeting. That's what it is. We need to understand that and follow through. Thank you. Now on the next subject, the vote. I know you had to make a decision tonight, or did you? Initially I was hearing the words by Assembly Member Rivera in the initial meeting that you would not take action tonight. That's what I thought I heard, but action was taken tonight. A change of role in who would be the leadership and who would take the position to be acting mayor in the near future. That was done. But what was also disappointing is the idea of voting and how you voted. You made two decisions tonight, and some of you probably will expect me to say this. You did a vote, you did nominations, but those votes were done in secret, and as of this time, we don't even know the numbers of who voted for who and how many voted for who. Is this the way to run the show? You are elected officials, elected by the people. You have a responsibility that every time you make a decision and vote, that those votes are announced. But most importantly, as you've seen in past public hearings, you have a responsibility to do it in a public way, not a secret way. You are expected to do that, and it's most important of all times now, with all the frustration and continued frustration in Anchorage and across our state and our country, to be responsible in how you make these decisions. This was an important opportunity to do that. I applaud members who are in this room for their responsibility and respect in attending this meeting. I applaud you too, but you need to follow through otherwise you will receive, unfortunately, frustration and unfortunately irresponsible behavior to those actions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Haberman. I have a question for you from Mr. Rivera.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so I just wanted to clarify the statement I made earlier was regarding whether we were going to have a special election or a regular election, that decision would occur in a future meeting, not the reorganization. So just for the record, wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
That wasn't a question, that was a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Haberman. We'll take one more person in person, and then we'll go ahead and move to phone testimony. Good evening, Mrs. Hill.
I don't know who said that, but thank you. Good evening. My name is Christine Hill, and it is Mrs. Christine Hill. Thank you. Okay, it's you. Thank you for allowing us to have this testimony. There is no stability with our assembly at this time. I'm not involved in it, so I'm not sure where this stands right now. There are a number of recall petitions that have actually been placed with our current clerk, and there are more that are being worked on. There isn't any stability at this time. I think you need to really regroup like you've done tonight and think how you're going to proceed, because possibly when we have the election or special election for the mayor at that time, we actually want to be able to include for the people that are going to be successfully removed from, that was weird, from the assembly perhaps. I'm sorry, I'm just going to go ahead and take this out. And it is very grave. Today is a grave day, and it is with a heavy heart too that this is going on. And it's not a small, noisy group that is having difficulty in our city. The problems we are having, you're causing. With the shutdown, you're causing the problems that we have. You need to open up, get those emergency orders over and done with. It's a way of controlling us. And we don't want to be controlled. We want to take control of our own lives. In doing so, not break the law, of course. But please, this is a grave times, but you have caused this. It hasn't been the problems that we've been faced with economically. You're causing the economic problems. COVID came, there's a lot of statistics. They talk about scientific data. There's scientific data on both sides. It depends on what you want to choose and how much you want to control people. I don't want to control people. I want people to have their own minds. So also on another note, being a businesswoman that I am, I find this really utterly ridiculous how this is so empty here, and on the other side it's almost full, it looks like to me by the photographs. Perhaps I'm wrong. What you could do as a fundraiser to make some money is sell these seats for $100 a piece, and I bet you get this place filled because they want in. People want in. They want to be seen, they want to be heard, and they deserve to be. Thank you, and good luck. You've got a great dilemma before you that you've caused yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hill. We'll go ahead and move to phone testimony now. We have Mr. Gary Martin.
Hello, this is Gary.
Hello, Gary. This is Austin calling from the Anchorage Assembly. You have 3 minutes to give general public testimony. Are you prepared to do that now?
I'm sorry?
Good evening. This is the Anchorage Assembly. Are you prepared to give public testimony now?
And how long do I have?
3 minutes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, my name is Gary Martin, and I would like to address the Assembly. I wish that we would be able to have a little bit more direction as a city in the reduction of COVID in our community. I do support the fact that the Assembly has given more direction for the mayor's office to be able to further what it needs to be done in the case of getting COVID under control. However, I do feel frustrated in the fact that it seems that generally some of these practices are not being followed by people in the community. It's very disheartening to be walking into places of business when others walk in willfully not wearing masks, which the CDC and the WHO have indicated are very useful in reducing COVID cases. And I also am a teacher in the Anchorage School District where there are lots and lots of students not being able to get adequate education. Although we're doing it online to the best of our ability, it is disheartening to see cases rise when students are not able to be in school. At the same time, it's disheartening to understand that we want to put kids back in buildings when that is a great risk also to teachers and to those who are also at health risks, kids with asthma and other respiratory issues. I just feel that the community needs to be a little bit more responsive. And I don't know exactly what the Assembly can do other than we can't say that you do what's right for your family and I'll do what's right for my family, because this is such a interconnected issue. And it just is disheartening when we can't get to this as a state, as a community, as a nation. It's disheartening. And I wish we could do that. And that's one thing I would like to task the Assembly with as a priority, is somehow we need to get our community to reduce this risk. Other places in the world have done it. We should be able to do it in the municipality of Anchorage. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Now we'll go to Ms. Enzina Marari.
Somehow
Hello?
Hello, Ms. Marari.
Yes?
This is the Anchorage Assembly calling. Are you prepared to give public testimony?
I am.
Okay, you'll have 3 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the Assembly for hearing my testimony today. My name is Enzina Marari. I've lived in Anchorage for more than 20 years, and I'm calling today representing myself. Thank you, Vice Chair Rivera, for your leadership and measure to date, and congratulations, Ms. Quinn Davidson, on your appointment as Chair and Acting Mayor of Anchorage. Your leadership and commitment to this community will carry us through the next several months with kindness and respect. I am calling this evening to express my sincere gratitude and respect for the work of this Assembly. This past week, we've seen more cases of COVID in Alaskans than any other previous week so far, and Alaska continues to see a sharp acceleration in new cases. Sadly, this week we have also experienced new deaths, and I send deep condolences to the family and friends of those individuals who have lost their lives. I am grateful for the Assembly's approval to extend the emergency orders in Anchorage to ensure that all members of our community are safe and protected. This action ultimately safeguards us all. From those on the front lines in medical facilities and grocery stores to those who keep our schools and city functions running. Those who are unable to work from home who must go into public facilities where the risk of infection is higher, and both those who support the mandate and who don't.
Let us use this pandemic as an exercise for inclusion, not division, a time where we value all of our community members equally. When we include those who are vulnerable or high risk in the conversation and decision making, instead of marginalizing them and asserting they should just stay home if they are scared, further relegating them to the sidelines. Let us use this as a time where we act and lead from a place of kindness, of care for each other, of hope, of concern for our neighbor, and of goodwill. Let us use this as a time to remember those who might be alone and reach out to them. Make a phone call, write a letter, plan a window or a virtual visit. These are difficult times that we are living through. Thank you, Madam Chair, and all members of the Assembly for walking along these challenging roads with us and for your tireless diligence and leadership in working to make Anchorage a better place for all. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We'll go back to in-person testimony. Please come forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Tara Wheatland. I'm an Anchorage resident, and I have known Austin for almost 10 years, including in the recent months as my representative, my assembly member in West Anchorage. And I've heard a lot of the same words used to describe Austin tonight, and it's a lot of the qualities that I want to see in a leader. She is smart, she's compassionate, she is honest, she is incredibly hardworking. And the entire city is lucky to have her to lead us through this incredibly difficult and frankly a little bit scary time. And while the circumstances may not be what we might have wished for, I am also so proud to see you take office as the first woman to serve as mayor of Anchorage. So Austin, thank you for stepping up to do this work.
Thank you for your testimony. Please state your name for the record.
My name's Emily Fehrenbacher, and I live in Sand Lake. And first, I just wanted to thank Vice Chair Riviera for his leadership through this entire process. It's been really amazing to watch, and I appreciate it. And it's been very transparent and open. And I have been lucky enough to have Austin Quinn Davidson as my assembly member since 2018. And she's one of the smartest, most caring, and qualified people that I've ever known. And the city that we all love is facing a crisis, and now is the time for all of us to come together. And Assemblywoman Quinn Davidson will provide a steady hand, a big heart, and an open mind during these challenging times. And I plead with every single person in this room, everyone in that theater, anyone standing outside, and anyone on any Facebook group to give Austin a chance, because I know that she will do the same for you. I have great faith in Austin and know that under her watch, Anchorage will continue to be just fine indeed.
Thank you for your testimony. Sir?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Niall Williams, I represent 1776 Alaska. At this time, the Assembly body is reorganized. So I would like to say that the people are very disappointed. This is a globalist takeover. It's very clear that the mayor and Maria Athens knew exactly what type of reaction the community would have. Outrage from both sides. That's what we've seen. So now we left an old evil, and now we move on. Is the new body going to respect the opinions of the electorate? We will wait and see, I guess. With matters of actually day-to-day operations in here, I think it's extremely important that whoever is speaking up there take down their mask so that we can identify that that is the person speaking and not someone else. I think that's very important. I think also certain members' lack of presence actually physically in the building, not Ms. Kennedy, but others who are frequently absent, is a problem. Personal presence is very important. Also, the fact that this room has over 100 chairs which are empty is very disappointing. More people should have been allowed in, COVID or not. The masks remove oxygen from your body, and so your cells aren't as oxygenated. You're not getting enough food. Another thing, if you all want to test us with a thermometer at the door, there should be DOT-5 drug test panels that every member of the assembly body should have to take prior to every meeting. Because there's no way that you would be making these choices and ignoring the public as much as you are unless you're on drugs or drunk. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Best of luck to you.
Thank you for your testimony. Go ahead and come forward and please identify yourself for the record.
Hello, my name is Dustin Darden, spelled D-U-S-T-I-N-D-A-R-D-E-N. Good morning. It's easy to say and it comes with bacon and coffee. The people throughout the Bible have always looked for a leader, for guidance. And if you take the time to ever sit down and listen to the Word of God from cover to cover, you will find that the people continually fail when they turn their back on Almighty God, and they continually look for a leader to save them. And every time you see, they fall flat on their face in failure. As the morality crumbles, so go the people. When you turn your back on God, your city, your nation is going to fail. We are at a precipice of sheer evil in the world now. 6-foot distancing, which is 666, a multiplied number. It is the 666 also implies an injection of a device that is going to be implanted into your hand. This is all capitulating from this sheer evil to one great spirit of wickedness, which is uprooting itself in the land. But God is setting up a standard, and he's giving an opportunity for every one of you to repent. But it's not just you sitting on these seats. It's all of you in the audience. It's all of you watching this thing. We must set up a righteous standard in the land and rebel against this evil, wicked spirit that is from the pit of hell. And we need to turn back to Almighty God. You want a leader? How about a leader who knew every sin that you ever committed, past, present, and future? A mighty God who knew your name before you were born, before you were knitted together in your mother's womb. His name is Jesus Christ, and he walked on this brown earth that we walk every day. But he went up on that cross. He did not only die for your sins, but he rose for your justification. So we are no longer bound by sin and iniquity, but we walk in newness of life. But that choice is a choice that you personally have to make yourself. He's not a forceful God. He's not going to strap a mask on your face. He's not going to stick a chip in your arm. He comes to you lovingly and says, "Here I am. I knock on the door. Open." But like I said, it's none of these people. It's you. No one knew it's coming. It's coming, folks. Halloween's a full moon, and there's people who do sacrificial rituals. 6 foot, the mask. What do you think's going to be happening on Halloween? Get back with Jesus before it's too late. The rapture's coming.
Thank you for your testimony.
Madam Chair, could you please call for masks in the chamber?
Yes. I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but our instructions are that if members of the public are not wearing masks, that we must close down chambers from public testimony. So I'll ask at this moment for people to please place masks on so I won't need to close chambers.
So if we can't wear a mask, what then?
Yeah, if you have a medical exception, that's okay. Ms. Vogel, would you like to weigh in on that?
Thank you. Through the chair, there are multiple ways to be accommodated if you cannot wear a mask. If you'd like to speak, you can sign up and call in to participate remotely. As you can see, we're in a crowded environment where there are many employees who are required to be here, so the reasonable accommodation that's been chosen for individuals who cannot wear masks is to participate remotely. It's also possible to view the assembly meetings if you're not talking about calling, so you can see people on TV cameras, and so that is another form of accommodation.
Okay, apologies, I was mistaken. So, ma'am, if you can't wear a mask inside, you'll need to go outside and we can take phone testimony from you if you'd like to give me your number.
So what you're saying is, if you can't come in person and testify because you can't wear a mask, you'll take that person out, but you're locking down an entire city and we can't tell the people that...
Thank you, ma'am. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you're not able to give testimony. Security, we'll have to call security to remove you if you cannot remove yourself.
Can I get a shield? If you brought one. No, but she offered to give me one. If you brought one.
Why don't you go out and work with security to resolve this, and we'll move on to the next person in public testimony. We'll go ahead and take a 5-minute recess and see what we can do, and then we'll return.
I'm a fourth-generation Alaskan and a local business owner. I own a hair salon right here in Midtown. And I just want to talk for a second about those of us who do not have the privilege of doing our job more than 6 feet away. We are the only ones, other than medical professionals. We do not have medical licenses, yet we are required to know all of anatomy, physiology, how bacteria grows, how viruses spread. This is something we do on a daily basis, long before COVID ever existed, was ever here. It is extremely frustrating as a business person. I've run my business for 13 years. I've been a hairdresser in this town for 21 years. It is very frustrating to see businesses who have the privilege of doing their job 6 feet away disparage those of us who can't. It is not your right, more important than mine, to be safe at the job that you do. Back in March, we closed for 7 weeks. As a small business owner, that's huge, especially for someone who built this salon and this entire business myself from the ground up. I'm only 48 years old. I am mother to 2, grandmother to 1. This is my home, and it is very frustrating to hear people who have no regard for safety, science, bacteria, viruses, things that need to be controlled, things that spread. We're not just talking about COVID, we're talking about hepatitis, we're talking about herpes, let's talk about MRSA, we can talk about a lot of things. They are no different. So I guess my point is that there's a lot of noise from a lot of people who don't run businesses, who don't have anything to do with people on a daily basis, yet their voices seem very, very loud in this room and in this town. And frankly, I'm over it. I have narrowly escaped losing my business during this time, yet we are successfully moving forward. Why? Because I'm an innovative business person. I shift, I change. When things happen, we adjust. It is okay. That is business ownership. And it is embarrassing that people simply cannot see that in this town and want to make a big political to-do about the whole thing. There is nothing political about being safe and not spreading viruses and bacteria to your neighbors. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. I actually have some questions for you.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll start with Mr. Constant.
Thank you. Hi there, Jen.
Hi.
A very specific question then. I appreciate your testimony. Do you support then our policy of having basic mandates?
I support there being rules in place to keep people safe. Currently, I'm not sure if anyone knows in this town, the Board of Barbers and Hairdressers, the body that gives me my license, has revoked every mandate having to do with safety It is all voluntary at this point. Does that seem right to you? Does that seem right to anyone? No. Okay, thank you. There needs to be rules, and we need to be safe. If you do not want to be safe, that is your business. Go out there and do what you like. But do not harass business people who are being fair and safe. I run a business that caters to people with illnesses.
Ma'am,
we don't just have people who are getting their hair done. We focus on that.
Thank you. Mr. Constant, did you get your question answered?
I think it's pretty clear. Thank you, Jenna.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Ms. Allard?
Hi. Thank you for your testimony. It's much appreciated. So my question is, and thank you for abiding by the mandates that have down, and although I don't agree with them, and that's my opinion. My question is, what about all the restaurant owners? Wait, I'm not done.
Okay.
What about all the businesses that don't quite have the flexibility that you have, that are drowning, closing their doors, and believe 100% smaller government? So when you say it's not political, it actually is, because we're abiding by our charter and we're going by our Constitution. So I just want to make sure that I do support all businesses, whether they want to put on a mask, whether they want to follow the mandates or not. But I definitely respect the fact that you're up here tonight standing by what you believe in. And I do appreciate your testimony.
Was that a question you'd like me to answer?
Well, I guess the first part I asked is, how would you tell restaurants?
Okay. So restaurants and I have one thing in common, and that's that we all have to make sure that we're not spreading disease around. Every restaurant in this town had the opportunity to do pickup, delivery, tables outside. The Anchorage Partnership gave tables away for free for people. I don't think that it is asking too much, even if no one thinks that anything's happening. What does it hurt to be careful? What does it hurt to be careful and be safe?
Just one follow-up, Chair.
Go ahead.
That their businesses are going under and they have no livelihood. That's all I have.
That is a
I just
choice
answered your
of
question.
being an uninnovative business person.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
A point of order, Madam Chair. Point of order, Madam Chair.
Excuse me, just a moment, Mr. Rivera. Excuse me, sir. If you do that again, we'll eject you from the building, okay? Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Rivera.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick point of order. Members of the body should not be debating with public members who are here to testify. Thank you.
Co-Chair, I'm sorry, but you guys always argue
Allard.
with everybody out
Ms.
there all the
Allard.
time. Constant, you and Dunbar.
Ms.
So
Allard.
before you do that again, make sure you stay in that too with the decorum that we call.
Okay, let's move on. Everyone, please be respectful and follow decorum. Mr. Oliva, come forward. Please identify yourself, even though I said your name.
You're supposed to say welcome.
Welcome, Mr. Oliva.
First of all, my heart soars. My name is Ron Oliva for your election to the chair. It has rejuvenated my spirit and belief in the political system. Tonight, I want to send out a little message, though, that our mayor may have acted in haste. And if you accepted his resignation, I think he should reconsider. And reconsider because I don't want anyone tried on social media or basically with gossip. That's belittling our democracy, and it's an insult to the city. Mr. Berkowitz, as I've known him, has made me a better person. I not necessarily have agreed with him, and once in a while I'd send over a volley of a little plug, but recently he's been doing a good job of that himself, so he didn't need any assistance. But the bottom line here is this situation is we need his help. He's too valuable of a resource to be released on the 13th or the 23rd. The public is going to support you. I think you will be a great uniter. And Mr. Berkowitz, his final sign-off has always been be kind. And that was his nature. He was not a pompous and pretentious mayor because he came down and prayed with this man and sat next to him, and he still got to speak, but that mayor did that, and it took courage and leadership.
Mr. Oliva, you turned your mic off. Yep, and I apologize to you, but I messed up your timer, so you have a minute more than it's showing here.
It's all right. I'm a man of few words. And I'll sum up by saying, first of all, you did get the clock, and I offered to buy that clock because it is rude to cut people off. It's a real big help. And if you would do a resolution to make that clock in memorial of Mr. Larrabee, who made a lot of public appearances, I think it'll reflect on the people behind me that if you're going to participate in democracy, my average is 7 hours and 21 minutes to speak 3. So be patient. Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you told them. And believe me, we're all going to unite with your leadership and support you. We will beat the pandemic. Our economy will be renewed, and democracy will carry us through this. Are there any questions?
It looks like there's a question from Mr. Counsel.
Is there a question?
Yes.
Ron, thank you for your testimony. I too agree that there is hope on the horizon, and it's so interesting that you brought up the name Ed Larrabee. Most of you won't know who Ed Larrabee is because you haven't spent a lot of hours in this chamber. But if you've spent a lot of hours in this chamber, you'll know Ed Larrabee. And a few years ago, he died of cancer. He just kind of finally faded away. But he was an amazing character who could come, who could disagree, who could actually change debates just with his very odd and interesting sensibility. And so there are some people, Ron, that are proof that this process actually does work. And my words to you is we're still working on that project. I'm glad you didn't bring it up, and we're going to get there.
Well, I'm glad you had your mask off. I can see your lips moving. Again, congratulations for making history as the first woman mayor of this great city, and it'll be greater because you have that position.
Thank you, Mr. Oliva. Sir, go ahead and come forward.
It's okay, Frank. Yeah. Roger Branson. I was born in Anchorage, and I'm a local advocate for mostly mental health consumers and folks who are caught up in not just homelessness, but corrections and a variety of different things. And as I drove here tonight, I found myself considering all the possibilities, outcomes that could come from this meeting tonight, and I started to get concerned about it until I realized that to varying degrees and capacities that I know you guys. I know each of you. We've met, we've had friendships, sometimes harsh words, sometimes not so harsh, and without reservation, you're all good people. More than that, you're great people, and we are so fortunate as a city to have such a caring, diverse, well-rounded, all age groups, all perspectives, individuals, to the person, and I thank you all. So I just wanted to make sure that you heard that appreciation, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, welcome.
Hi, good evening. Rosa Mealy here. So what I'm here to talk to you about today is the mandates like we always do when we come here. Why? As free Americans, we have the right to choose what is best for our own personal situations. This overreaching, tyrannical crap has got to end. You guys still get a paycheck. You guys still get to do your job. You guys don't socially distance and all that. But yet, you go ahead and put all of these tyrannical rules over your constituents. You're not here for your own agendas. You have been voted into these positions to to facilitate our needs, our desires. Our tax money pays for your paycheck. Our tax money pays for the city. Our tax money pays for the state, the country. You need to do what the people are asking you to do, not what you think is best. The CDC just released their latest numbers today. I watch them weekly, okay? They updated 49 deaths in the entire state of Alaska only from COVID. Do you know how many people have died from homicide in Anchorage just this year? 55. That's 6 more. Yes, it's true. Look it up. And if you don't even keep tabs on your own numbers, how are you supposed to know what's going on? There's been over 500 deaths of heart disease in Anchorage this year alone, but you're going to shut down an entire population over 49 deaths? Yes, it is sad. And yes, you know what? Nobody is happy that these people are dying. It is sad, and it hurts everyone. That is the circle of life, okay? People are always going to die, and I'm not saying that to be rude or negative and because I don't feel bad for those people or I don't have a heart, but it's because that is the reality of things. More people are going to die in the upcoming year that have nothing to do with COVID. More people are going to die of other complications that have nothing to do with COVID. And you guys are picking and choosing what you want as data from the CDC and the WHO website. Okay, that is not actually listening to statistics and reading statistics. That is you pushing your political agenda that you do what you want. You locked us out for months at a time so you can push through all of your leftist agenda that you wanted to, because it gave you that chance to shut the people down, to shut them up while we weren't here. So you got all these things pushed through. Had we all been here in that time and weren't locked out, unconstitutionally like you did, you wouldn't have pushed all that stuff through. Or even if you would have, we would have at least had the fighting chance to speak up. Not like you've been doing this entire time. You've only been chair, what, a few hours, or a few minutes, sorry, within the last hour, and you're already telling people that can't wear masks can't be here? What does the ADA got to say about that? You have no idea the sleeping giant that you're waking up, and you're very much going to be sorry.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name is James Caswell. I came here, I was going to say something that it matters a lot to me, and it has to do with the schools. I know you guys aren't the school board, but I know that you are influential on the school board. But I first wanted to say I was very surprised when I walked through the door and the security guard told me that he was told only to let 45 people in chambers today. And when I walked into the theater, like I see all my people in there who are normally in here. And I have my theories, you know, and I come in and I'm wondering where all these people here that are here supporting you guys, where have they been, you know? Did you guys call them, let them, you know, this isn't a direct question, but I'm assuming, you know, there were phone calls, that they all know you guys on a personal basis, and they've showed up, they've made phone calls to testify on your behalf. I would encourage you guys to keep showing up because it's real interesting what happens here. So that's all I have to say on that. I have something I wanted to read in regards to schools. Because I know they're talking about reopening the schools for K through second grade. I have a second grader, so it's kind of concerning to me. Because I won't force my son to wear a mask. He's asthmatic. I won't send him to school if that's going to be a requirement. It's not safe for our children to be wearing masks for 6 to 7 hours straight. Your child may have an undiagnosed asthma condition that you don't know about, and them wearing a mask for 6 to 7 hours straight daily, I can guarantee you it will accelerate their condition, potentially putting your child in a life-threatening situation without ever even contracting the virus. If they're going to try and make these kids wear masks at school, they might as well just keep them closed, because parents who are scared of this pandemic will keep their kids home. They won't send them to school. The parents, like myself, who will not put a mask on my child, I'll keep him home. He's not going to go to school. That's leaving a fraction of the students that are welcomed back to in-person learning actually at the school. While us taxpayers are going to continue to pay the salaries of the teachers, are going to continue to pay the bills to keep the school running. Again, like I said, I know you guys aren't the school board, but you can influence it. I fully support education. Our children are not getting the proper education that they deserve right now, but I will not support opening schools up and making our children wear masks. It's crap, and that's all I have, so thanks.
Thank you, sir. Welcome. Please state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, Marie Caswell. This is my first time here, so.
Welcome.
Good evening, Assembly members and Anchorage community. I'm here tonight to call the community to wake up. I recently discovered testimony from OSHA experts on the matter of mask wearing. I'm here to tell everyone that these OSHA experts are the ones we really should be listening to. These experts are the ones that have the science, data, and experience to actually back what they are saying. Doctors are not the mask experts. They bring in OSHA professionals to educate them on proper mask wearing, if it is safe for them to wear masks, and how long they can wear them for. These OSHA professionals have stated this virus is so tiny that masks do literally nothing to protect you from disease transmission. From a virology perspective, these masks are doing nothing to protect anyone. I understand the intent behind mask wearing. When you wear a mask, you believe you're being selfless and protecting others. OSHA experts, however, have stated masks are actually dangerous. As the mother of an asthmatic child, this makes sense to me because I wouldn't want to do anything to restrict my son's breathing. But even healthy individuals shouldn't be restricting oxygen and increasing carbon dioxide levels to dangerous amounts, which is exactly what happens within minutes of wearing a mask. Has anyone in this room had a medical evaluation to see if you're healthy enough to wear a mask for hours on end? Have you had the proper training on how to remove masks or when to change them? Have you had any of this done with the very specific type of mask you own or wear regularly? This is what OSHA does for workers because we already have the data that proves prolonged mask wearing is unhealthy. Yet it's not being required for the general public. Everyone that has been forced to strap a mask on has been put in serious danger by taxing their cardiopulmonary system. And prolonged mask wearing causes oxygen deprivation and increases carbon dioxide levels to dangerous amounts. Prolonged oxygen deprivation and increased CO2 will contribute to long-term health effects, including reducing immune function and allowing cancer to grow and thrive. There are also numerous studies from across the world that say the types of masks being used today are not only not protecting anyone, they are actually contributing to the spread of disease through cross-contamination. If the masks were working, why did China have an outbreak when they already wear masks? Why have our numbers continued to grow? On that evidence alone, it is clear that masks are not working, but they're not just useless. They are a hazard to the health you are so desperately clinging to. The mask mandates we've faced over the last several months are completely ignoring decades of data for a political agenda, and it needs to end now.
Thank you, ma'am.
I have like 5 seconds left.
Okay, go ahead and wrap
OSHA
up.
has been weaponized by the government to go along with these mandates, to use fear and control to social condition the population, and now not only are our freedoms at
Ma'am, you
risk,
need
but
to
the
wrap
very
up.
breath of
Your
life we
testimony is
breathe is
over.
threatened.
Ma'am, your testimony is over.
I urge everyone for not just for freedom's sake, but for your health and life to remove your masks now before
Ma'am,
it's too late.
please stop speaking or you'll have to be removed from chambers. Ma'am, come on down. Oh. Ma'am, come on down. Sir, if you have an outburst again when someone is speaking, I will remove you from chambers. Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am. Oh, your mic is not on, ma'am. There's a yellow button.
Okay, I don't know why this doesn't stay on, or you guys don't just keep turning us off and on. But anyway, so now that we've already wasted a good 12 seconds of my time, for the record, my name is Jane Doe, since you guys don't seem to care about us anyway. I will no longer be stating my actual name, because if you don't know who I am, then you're not going to like me, or you're not going to like me anyway. Doesn't matter. So on to the COVID pandemic. Let's talk a little bit about that. First of all, we have giant issues with the false positives. The false positives here, so for example, the lady who does my eyebrows, she was telling me that one of her other clients, she works rotational shift, and she was in line to go get her test done, because you have to sign up ahead of time, usually 3 days in advance. And because the line was too long, she had other errands to run for her family, she decided to go ahead and just skip it for that day. She was going to go back the next day or go back later. She ended up getting a letter in the mail that said that she was positive, yet she was never tested. Now, that's kind of scary, that we have this many false positives. There are multiple companies coming out saying that they have these issues. So right now, I think that's a major issue. The other issue that we have right now is, again, going towards the schools. I understand people not wanting to have their kids in schools. I do have a problem with schools or people being charged for their children to go to the school that I pay for in my tax dollars, my property taxes, that they're being taught by a computer and not by a professional. And they're paying, for each kid, like $1,200 a month. That's absolutely outrageous. So the other issue that I have is I'd like to ask one of you guys to let us know when there's going to be a special election and voting dates for that. So far, this has not been great about me receiving my mail-in ballots from you guys. I never got a chance to vote on, thankfully, our prior mayor. I never got a ballot, neither did anybody in my house. There was 5 people at that address. So that's a massive issue, where other people named like Richard or Catherine are getting Kathy and Kate and all this other stuff. Not one of us gets one, though. That is, and I am signed up to vote. So that is a very serious issue if we're going to try and decide who's going to be taking care of us in the future, that Anchorage is only a mail-in ballot. Well, if I don't get one, then I don't get anywhere to go to say anything. And when am I supposed to know what date it's supposed to be at my house by? Yeah, I've had to sign up for Turbo Vote and all these other things. That's absolutely ridiculous. The last 2 things that I'm going to say is, one, thank you once again for wasting my time. You guys have done such an egregious job of wasting my time constantly. I have to stand here on a broken ankle and listen to you guys talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk about nothing that never gets solved. I've been doing this for years, and still nothing has seemed to have been accomplished for the most part. There are a few of you who are very good at your jobs, and I implore you to please also try and do your jobs effectively. And those of you who are not, don't worry, you'll be done. The last thing is, Aldred, just so you know, next time if I were you, I would make sure that you're careful what you say, because your speaker was on the last time, was on YouTube.
Ma'am?
When you said, just shut up.
Ma'am, I just wanted to note that if you're having trouble with your ballot, the clerk's office would be happy to help you.
Yeah,
You could see Ms. Vanna-Clausen. Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you guys don't care. It's good. It's good. Thank you for wasting my time. Should start backcharging you.
Ma'am, if you do that again, you'll be removed.
Stop wasting my time. It's my money.
Good evening. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. My name is Tani Sacriccia, and I would like to spend the next 3 minutes thanking you guys. Because, listen, this is a global pandemic. This is insanity. And I think it's amazing that you guys, this is a part-time job for you. Many of you work full-time jobs. And you show up day in and day out. And a lot of people don't realize that this is just the public-facing part of your job. That you guys are getting emails and you are engaged in emergency operation meetings and you're in committee meetings and all of these different things, just trying to make sure that our city is safe and that people are healthy and trying to make sure that we can keep the relatively low death numbers down. And I want to thank Austin Quinn Davidson for her role as my assembly member for the last few years. I've had a chance to get to know you. I think you are going to make an amazing interim mayor, and I hope that one day you'll run again and really be voted in as our first official voted in female mayor. And, you know, I also want to point out here that a lot of people say, they come up here and they yell at you guys, and they call you names, and then you get emails and you get phone calls, and you guys you didn't sign up, weren't publicly voted in so that people could verbally abuse you and could shout racial epithets at you and to accost you and to tell you all these horrible things and then threaten to kill you. That's not what any of you guys signed up to do. And the fact that you still show up and then have to hear it again and again and again, I just want to applaud you and say thank you, because that shows that you do care about our city and you do care about everybody in this city, not just a small group of people who are spewing hate at you. And you have an entire city backing you up. And not everybody is in that category, but I will say that you are doing a great job. And I thank you. And I have been supporting you guys, and I've been submitting testimony from afar. I've done it over the phone. And I realized after Tuesday's meeting about seeing so many people with flags and just cheering and just really not being very nice people, I thought it was good to come down here and give you some niceness back. And for those people who come up here and talk about religion and Christianity and all this other stuff, I really have a problem with how you go about doing that, because being a good Christian is being kind and being compassionate and listening and being civil. I'm pretty certain that Jesus would not walk up here, threaten to kill people, tell you guys awful things, and then walk away with his head held high. So I hope that the rest of you guys who are about to testify, I really hope that you come up here and just treat them with civility and respect. You don't have to like them, but just don't be a jerk face, okay? Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Austin.
Oh, I'm so
Tawny.
sorry, Tawny.
Thank you.
Mr. Constant has a question for you.
It's
Thank
not a
you.
question, just a comment. I just want to say again, you've been coming for a number of years to these proceedings, and I really appreciate it. The time you've invested in, especially in your writing. Please keep it up.
Yeah, thank you. And we know we haven't always agreed, Chris, but I think that we've both treated each other with respect and talked civilly with each other. So I appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Welcome.
Is the microphone on? Oh, thank you. For the record, my name is Anna Brawley. I'm a West Anchorage resident. I've been an Alaska resident since 2011, and I've been coming to these meetings since 2012. I am a member of my community council. I've been on Turnagain Community Council for 6 years. Before that, I was secretary of Spenard Community Council. And I want to say 3 things today. First, I want to say thank you to the assembly members for your service, and also thank you to the municipal staff who do not get thanked enough, especially those who are not political appointees, who run departments, who plow our roads, who pick up our trash, who manage our elections, who keep the lights running, and pretty much let the city function. So thank you to them. Second, I want to congratulate Chair Quinn Davidson and Vice Chair Rivera on your new positions. Governing is hard, and finding compromise is hard, and making decisions that not everybody likes is hard. So I do not envy your job, but I appreciate your work. And third, I just want to apologize on behalf of our community. As I said, I've been coming to this chamber for 8 years, and until June of this year, I have never seen this level of disrespect and harassment and anger and really just behavior that really doesn't move us forward as a community. So again, I would like to think that I'm not part of that, but I'd like to apologize on behalf of the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Before we take the next person, I'd just like to remind members that we are noticed until 7 p.m. and this meeting will end then unless we get a motion to extend.
Good evening, I'm Bernadette Wilson, and I'm sure that you are all just as happy to see me as I am happy to see you. What cowardly behavior from all of you to sit up on that dais, tell the citizens of Anchorage tonight who's going to be their acting mayor, and then run and go hide as you take your vote. I'm not talking legally or not legally. Every single one of you sits up here and puts your names on fundraising flyers and puts your endorsements out for Congress and Senate and school board and who you're going to endorse for mayor in April. And yet you run and hide when it comes to telling the people of Anchorage who you support right now for mayor. What cowards! I don't care what's legally allowed or not. Think about that. For you to continually step up and say constantly who you're going to support for Congress and everything else, and then you got to go run and hide as you decide who's going to be mayor tonight. And isn't it interesting that all the people that have been showing up to testify, the assembly chambers are full tonight, the overflow is full tonight, you got people outside that want in. You know what's changed since June? The tyranny that's been happening up here on this dais by nearly all of you. Not quite. Thank you. It is despicable. So they're locked out, and then the first person that gets up here has prepared notes to congratulate you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's AstroTurf. That is the very definition of AstroTurf. And I don't want to hear about a special election. You're concerned about the money. If there's one thing residents in this town know, it's that you don't give a damn about any money that's spent, let alone a measly $350,000. Give me a break. And you're the ones that changed it to mail-in voting. So don't tell me about the cost. The cost because we've got to mail out all these ballots. You incurred that cost yourself. And if you have nothing to hide, then let the public come back in here. Let them talk. And have that special election. But I'll tell you right now, if any of us had to hazard to guess, you don't want to have a special election. You'd be content to stay mayor till July, and quite frankly, your colleagues would be just fine with that. It would fit right along with your tyrannical attitude that you have brought to this municipality. And just like you don't want them to come in and testify, just like you want to tell them that they can't walk into their business and operate the way they should be, just like you want to tell them that their kids can't go to school, we know darn well you don't want to give them a chance to vote. And don't you dare tell somebody with disabilities that they can testify on phone. You know what? You could also get your groceries by somebody delivering them. This is ridiculous, and you are cowards. Thank you.
Ma'am, your time is up, but I do have a question from Ms. Allard.
Move to
Actually, Chair, I
extend
would
for
like to motion
35
to
minutes.
extend, please. Until public testimony is over.
I heard a motion to extend for 35 minutes, Mr. Weddleton?
Counting here, I'm trying to get to the same intent Ms. Allard has, but
If it helps you, there's a line back to the theater, just because I don't know if you're all aware of that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Move to
Mr.
extend till
Weddleton, what
8.
time? Till 8? Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Allard. I'm waiting for her to do the thing. Okay. I'm ready. Yeah, members may proceed to vote.
There might be discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any discussion about the motion to extend?
I think people deserve the chance to speak because they came out here, and I say that with great trepidation because I rode my motorcycle. It's going to be really cold going home, but that's okay.
Any other discussion before we vote? Ms. Allard, are you in the queue to discuss or just to make the second that you did?
No, I was going to wait. I have a question after.
Oh, okay,
I'm
great.
good.
I'll keep you in the
I
queue for
actually
that.
would like to have a conversation.
Mr. Constant?
Thank you. I wish I could push into the queue, but for some reason, my system is broken right now. And we do need to extend this meeting because all of these people are here to testify. And I think it's really important to give them a chance.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. Is there any other discussion before we vote? Okay. Ready? Members may proceed to vote.
Ms. Kennedy?
I just want to make sure what the extension till what? Is an
Till
hour
8
extension?
o'clock p.m., Ms. Kennedy.
Thank you. My vote is yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Christopher, I vote is...
You want to do a voice vote for Mr. Constant?
Yes. Mr. Constant?
Mic on, Mr. Constant.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Mr. Constant. Thank you for your patience, Ms. Wilson. We'll get to your questions. Okay, with that, the meeting is extended until 8 p.m. Ms. Allard, go ahead.
I have two questions for you. One, how has this affected your business being on lockdown? And two, maybe three. And do you know of others that this has affected your business? And three, how has it affected your children with school?
Ma'am, your mic's off. Thank you. It's still off. There should be a yellow button, and then it should light up red.
There we go. How's that? I will address your question regarding business, first of all. I work in an industry where we service all different industries. So we work with construction companies, we work with restaurants, we work with entertainment facilities, ice rinks, axe throwing places, private schools, coffee shops. we work with a broad range of different businesses, and I will tell you it's had devastating effects. We have customers that have not made the news at all, but businesses that will not reopen. There are businesses that would typically have a level of service, and they are down to maybe a tenth of that. So that obviously has had a huge domino effect on us with the businesses that are closing and the mandates that have been put in place and the restrictions. As far as my children go, I will tell you it has been definitely challenging for sure. I think that who it's been the most challenging is for my friends' children. I am fortunate enough that my kids can attend a private school. It's interesting, the private schools are all going to school regular. And so it's incredible that the private schools have been able to make this happen. Who's been devastated is several of my friends' children who are low income. They live over in East Anchorage, and they don't have the money. I mean, I know single moms that are working 2 jobs. They don't have the money to hire a private tutor. They don't have the money to send their children to a private school, and they hardly have time to even make sure that they were doing their Zoom classes. I mean, you talk about an income disparity. When I share that frustration with you, that frustration comes from me because of my friends and their children that I care so much about. It's not because it's affected my kids. My kids are lucky enough they've been able to go to school. It's the low-income kids that are being discriminated against right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Welcome.
Hello. My name is Thad Phillips. First of all, I'd like to say, Mr. Welton, it's getting cold out there, and there are icy patches on the road, so be careful. I came here first in July and spoke. I'm one of the people that have just started showing up at the assemblies, and I have attended either through Zoom or in the conference room across the way and watched the assembly. I can say thank you guys because you got me off of out of my house and down here and participating, and you have a whole room full of people and overflow that are participating every month. Unfortunately, what I have witnessed since July in watching this assembly has been very discouraging and disheartening. I can tell you that I can consistently see that 75% of you rail over 3 people consistently and twist and construe things to meet your agenda. And again, once again here tonight, I see this. Originally in July, AO 2020-58 was trying to bypass existing rules set up for planning and zoning. Recognize that got tabled indefinitely, but we continue to see a pattern of deceit and manipulation of the rules and things that are in place to guide us. Again, tonight, Ms. Vogel laid out several options for the election that'll be coming up. I can tell you, I do not support an April election. It is a 90-day window that's out there, and if you think that it's going to happen too soon with the general election, it is 79 days after the general election would be the special election. That date would happen in January 23rd, okay? So it's not even close to compromising things with the general election. Again, once again, tonight, kicking right off, I see you laying the foundation to extend your group on out through July of next year, and I don't support that. And you've lost my trust, and you've lost the trust of a lot of people in this community, and that's why you see the action and the number of people out here, because you've lost our trust. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, welcome.
Thank you.
Please state your name before you begin.
My name is Brittany, and I just want to say thank you for having this meeting tonight.
Brittany, would you mind stating your last name just for the record?
Tompkins.
Thank you.
We, the public, like to actually be able to come in to these open meetings, so thank you. I'm just going to go ahead and read the testimony I've been trying to read for the last couple weeks because we've been able to get up here at the 45-minute mark, but not actually been able to speak. I've had probably 8 minutes of public comment available to me, so I'm going to go ahead and read that. I am here today to, again, urge the Assembly not to extend these emergency orders, which have already been extended last time. These emergency orders are hurting businesses, they're hurting the city's economy, and they're hurting families. Many businesses cannot keep employees hired, make ends meet, pay the same overhead every month with the strict policies. I know many businesses, restaurants, travel, and family-centered businesses who say if they get shut down, even for 1 week, they will not survive it. Anchorage is known for its amazing small businesses who are a backbone of our economy, and they need to have the freedom to open their businesses to the capacity they choose. People are smart, they can make their own decisions on what businesses they go to, what they do in town, and who they see. They can choose to wear a mask, gloves, face shield, or whatever kind of PPE they want. They can choose, because it's already been drilled in our heads anyways. These emergency orders are originally intact to keep our health offices and hospitals from being overrun with people, to flatten the curve. 7 months later, there is no overwhelmed hospitals. There are even people being furloughed. I personally know many medical coders and medical people that work in the hospitals that have been furloughed, and they even lost their job in April and have yet to get their job back. I know nurses assistants and nurse directors who have been sent home because the hospitals can't keep them busy. I know I'm not in the medical field. This is just what people I know are telling me and I have personally experienced in my family. Even a neurosurgeon and an anesthesiologist came into this assembly meeting with medical facts about these certain emergency orders which were ignored. Lastly, I want to say that my family members and other people in our community are getting discriminated against because they cannot wear masks, and their doctors have told them they cannot wear masks for certain reasons of not being able to. It's not about COVID, it's about other reasons, other medical reasons that they can get infections, and they are being discriminated against. So I want to urge you to understand there are people in this community that can't wear masks, and we are getting discriminated against. Even outside just now, somebody was discriminated against because they couldn't wear a mask.
Thank you, ma'am, for your testimony.
Thank you.
Can I turn it off? Welcome, sir. Come on down.
Hi, my name is Brandon Conant. I've spoke here once before. I'm the welder with the mask story. I got a couple things. One is it seems like recently we've been dealing with a lot of electoral issues where everybody feels cheated or lied to. And I've always dealt with that on a federal level just because that's how the game is played. They're career politicians. But here locally, you guys live in our communities, you're our neighbors, you're people we, pass by in the grocery store, and I feel like it should be explicitly transparent, especially with anything that's been filed against you. I don't feel that that is a necessary vote to be given. Like, I was informed that you, Quinn, had a recall order put in. I feel like those things should be taken into consideration when nominating somebody. That doesn't make sense to me. With the one lady who came up and spoke, she said you guys get reamed left and right. It's the position you put yourselves in. You can all look at the president and see every single president every single time gets torn apart every time. It just depends on which side they're facing against. So that's part of the job, right? Pertaining to the other lady who spoke about how when in June everybody started coming up and screaming and slandering, we are the pet dog that was very content with our life was going well, we were never backed into a corner really, we may have been, spanked here and there, but now we're put in a corner, and we feel like we're being beaten down. Our churches were closed, our schools were closed, our favorite place to eat was closed. We're told to wear a mask, stay 6 feet apart, whereas you guys sit a couple feet apart. I watched one guy walk around with sorry, I'm not going to call anyone out, with a party tray and many people reached into it. That is the heaviest form of transmission, period. But I can also still go to Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, wherever, major superstore, wear my mask, stand in line, but I can't go to a voting center. I can't stand there and say, push this, January, let's vote for a mayor that we actually vote for. It's our voice, it's our choice. I don't feel like there's any reason why there has to be a mail-in ballot, period. Mail-in ballots don't work. A lot of people don't get them. A lot of people don't know how to use them. Just open it up. Let us vote in person. If it's about money, charge me at the door. I'll pay for my vote. I don't care. It's not about money anymore. This is about my choice, who runs my city, who helps me or speaks for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Hi, welcome.
What, hello?
Hello.
Am I on?
You're on. Please
Okay.
state your name for the record.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Cecilia Preziosi. I've been coming to these meetings, for a good number of years, but since May, probably a lot more. So I want to kind of condense a lot of stuff. I don't think I can say anything extra to this assembly meeting that you already heard and you will continue hearing. Some people spoke here and felt sorry for you. That's their opinion and that's their feeling and they're welcome to it. I love opinions and I have one too. The reason why people are so hostile toward you is because we have spoken clearly, nicely, professionally, and you keep approving projects that we very well know is going to be lining the pockets of people who are sitting in front of me greatly, while the rest of the community is struggling. But I want to make my speech here, if you call it, towards you, Ms. Quinn Davidson. Okay, you're sitting here, and I know you're an equal with everyone else here as you sit here with your peers. And that's a beautiful thing. But what I want to bring out to you is when you're sitting in the mayoral office by yourself with the door closed. First, I should say I wanted to congratulate you. I digress to congratulate you on your position, your new position. So when you're sitting in that mayoral office with the door closed, you're all by yourself, there's nobody around, I want you to realize, and you will, you have to, because you breathe, and I know you have to, you will feel the weight of the pressures of that position on you. You will. And that's something that you have accepted too. I want to define what that weight is. That weight is a community hoping that you will now, with a new leadership, listen to the people and give us what we need and what we want, and not what has been going on here since May. We don't want any more people in the assembly. They're already making 2 paychecks, and now you want to line your pockets with pet projects and line them deeply. I want you to take into consideration when you're all by yourself with your own voice in your own head and you don't have anybody else around you, to focus on what this community means to you and feel the weight. The weight is the anger and the upset and the hurt. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your testimony.
I'm done?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
I don't see any questions. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Come on down, sir.
Thank you. Can you hear me? For the record, name is Greg Snoke, just like Supreme Leader Snoke from Star Wars. This is my first time testifying in public like this. No notes except for what's in my brain. I respect the position. Thank you. I want to thank my fellow Anchorage citizens for coming out and doing the same. First thing I want to say is I oppose these mask restrictions. When this all started, when that first Wuhan evacuation flight landed in Anchorage, it was in very close proximity to where I work. I was scared, worried. I was wearing a mask religiously everywhere. And over time, I'm alive and well to tell that story. I'm fine without wearing a mask, okay? Can you see that? I want to see if you can, visualize the hypocrisy of wearing these things. And if you want to do this experiment now, that'd be great. If not, do it later. Put your mask on and breathe. Easy to breathe, right? Now, go like this. Actually make it seal. It's harder to breathe. Isn't that exact proof that what I'm inhaling and exhaling is actually coming out here on the sides of it? I would say so, because I can feel it. Is it filtering? The answer is no, because I can feel it. I would implore you to, oppose masks. This virus, in my opinion, is going to be here forever. Whether it's as serious as they say it is or not, that's beside the question. We've got the flu, we've got common cold, that's forever. Coronavirus is forever. I wish it wasn't. I'm not going to latch on to any promise of a vaccine. I will proudly say I'm a Trump supporter. I do not respect when he says, oh, the vaccine's going to be here. No, it's a pipe dream that everyone wants to grab onto. I will not grab onto that. In closing, 1 minute left. Lessons are learned in the movies. I'll give you an example. The movie Taxi Driver with Robert De Niro. There's a scene when he's a taxi driver and he picks up a political candidate, all right? Candidate asks him, what is the one thing about America that bugs you the most? And he answers, but I'm going to answer that question, okay? I think there are far too many citizens who do not stand up and voice their opinions. And I'm honored to see everyone here doing that, but we need 1 million more doing the same darn thing. I'd like to see this line out the streets that you have to vote 1 million times to extend it till 5 in the morning, personally. But I'm going to, in closing, 13 seconds left, I want to say a lot of politicians, if asked that same question, let's reverse it. They're going to say the one thing they like about America is that so many citizens are exactly that.
Thank you, sir.
That they don't, they're less assertive than we should be. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your testimony. Come on down. Okay. Excuse me, ma'am, just a moment. Security, can you please remove this man? Where's our security? We'll take a 5-minute break. Thank you. Started again?
She'll tell you.
Hi, welcome. So please state your name for the record, and then you can get started.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Dunphy. I'm 16 years old. I have become, over time, rather interested in city politics, and I have been a little bit dismayed with the lack of representation for the citizens of Anchorage. So will you please hear what I have to say? Thank you. Allowing public testimony after one of the most important decisions of the year, although public testimony is incredibly important, it comes across as being just a little bit more than a publicity stunt. Since the decision has already been made, we're just essentially standing here yelling at you, which no one likes. And us coming up here and saying we disagree with you after this decision's been made, it doesn't accomplish anything. And so for future reference, it would be exceedingly profitable to allow public testimony before the decision is made so that you can represent the people you serve, even if you disagree with them, which is hard. Because if your job is representing the community and we don't voice our opinion, then there's a disconnect, and that's where a lot of conflict comes in. I also would like to apologize on behalf of the people who have mistreated you people. I acknowledge the fact that we do not always disagree respectfully, and I am very sorry for it. You are human beings created in the image of God, just like me and just like everyone else in the entire world. And you don't deserve to be the victim of angry emails and phone calls and anything. That's abuse, and that's wrong. And if I'm unwilling to listen to someone when they're screaming at me, I cannot expect you to listen to me if we are screaming at you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Chair.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Mr. Whittleton.
Thank you for speaking. You did wonderful.
And the clerk here is reminding me that we have a youth representative position on the assembly open, so just something to consider. Okay, come on down.
May I remove this to speak?
And just state your name for the record, please.
There it is.
Is
That's
this
it.
on, correct?
Yep.
Okay. My name is Mary Ann Nelson, and I did email you this afternoon, and I want to thank you for several of you emailing me back. I greatly appreciate that, and it just does show that you are listening or you're willing to listen. So thank you for taking the time to do that, especially when you know you have a meeting later on that evening. To start off, my name is Mary Ann again. I am a small business owner, but my biggest role is that I'm a home educator. I have 4 children, and 2 of them are with me here today. I have 2 daughters, and typically we start with any kind of grading of a paper with glows and grows, and so I just want to kind of start by doing that right now here. I just want to make sure I thank you guys for what you're doing. Thank you for your service. I know you are representatives of all of your constituents, and so I appreciate you running for office, and I appreciate the time that you take to study, to research, to be here and vote. Some grows here. Okay, so the young lady who just spoke, she did a fantastic job. She would be a wonderful youth ambassador. So I second that, Quinn Davison, for mentioning that. But I want to just, for a minute, mention that it is really important that you do take the time to allow people to address you prior to something as large and significant as what you did tonight. And so based on the huge public response that you've received, people do have a voice and they really do care. They would have loved to chime in. And so it would have been a wonderful thing if we could have done that prior to a vote taking place. But that is said and done. So moving forward, just making note of that it's wonderful if you guys could open things up before the votes take place. A couple of other issues here I just want to say is that I've been an Alaska resident since I was 2, and I'm 40 years old. So I've been here a long time. I love Anchorage. It's my city. We came back after college. We've raised our kids here. My husband and I came back after college. We've raised our kids here. We want to be here long-term. I hope my children want to be here long-term. My one son is serving as a Marine. He's in San Angelo, Texas. He also wants to come back to Anchorage once he fulfills his service. So that being said, we are fans of Anchorage, and what we have seen happen over the course of the past 7-8 months, we don't recognize this city that we love, and it's really grievous to us. And I'm running out of time here, but I do just want to make sure I say that the overreach of what we've seen here with our mayor and now the assembly, it needs to stop. We are adults. We can make good decisions. You can trust us to do that. Again, as a small business owner, we see the people that we serve every day making good choices. We're capable of making those choices. So if you could please release the emergency order so we can make those choices for ourselves and assess our own level of risk, we'd really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your testimony. Please quiet down in the back so that we can get through testimony. Thank you, sir. Please
Hello.
state your name for the record.
My name is Robert Lee. I just want to start off by saying that open the city back up. No more shutdowns. These emergency powers of the mayor or the animal mayor must be revoked. They must be stopped now. How many more businesses must go under? I think the city of Anchorage should adopt the song another one, Bites the Dust by Queens. Another business bites the dust. How many more must go under? How many must go bankrupt because of the inactions of the city? I can't even go to a restaurant with my family because we're greater than 6. What does 6 have to do with catching COVID? Again, there's been so many restaurants that have gone under, businesses that have gone under. Restaurants have to maintain a maximum capacity of 50%. How can they survive on 50%? Can you as a city operate your budget on 50%? Can I just say, well, I'm just going to pay 50% of my property tax? Is that okay? No, because so why should you expect them to operate at 50%? And again, no more shutdowns. We're done. And go into this mail-in ballot. Me and my wife have a home, but yet, no, I'm sorry, there's 2 eligible voters in our house, but yet, every election, we get 5 ballots. That's because you guys cannot keep your voter rolls current. And this is why we have election fraud. There was a member for the state house that was indicted for voter fraud because of 15 ballots going to one house. We need to clean up our election rolls, and then we won't have so much voter fraud. We need to go back to in-person voting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your testimony.
I was in the queue.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Dunbar. Sir, could you come back down here? We have a question for Mr. Dunbar.
Well, it's not a question so much as a statement. First, I want to say thank you very much for your testimony, but also, Ms. Veneklassen here, if you wanted to give her your information, our clerks run our elections, and we'd love to figure out what the issue is if you are indeed getting superfluous ballots. So please let our clerk's office know and we can get that resolved.
I'm getting the ballots from the prior residents that have moved out 4 or 5 years ago.
The clerk would love to get that information, if you don't mind. If you have the address, perhaps to Ms. Veneklassen, then we can get that resolved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunbar. Thank you, sir, for your testimony. Welcome.
Right.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
My name is Michael Johnson. Am I close enough? So, my son, when he was 18 years old, he was still half wet behind the ears, but super responsible and skilled in other ways. He said, Dad, a wise person will ask the smartest person he knows who disagrees with him. And I go, huh. I would say, I talked to Senator Mia Costello way back in the spring. Wednesday, I had a 2-hour conversation with a school board member, and I'm going to express the same thing to you. One of my greatest disappointments with all the administrations in Alaska is it feels like we're getting groupthink with how we're handling COVID. And I've been researching coronavirus and everything about it, but way back in March going, what's going on here? What's the real risk? And I like to actually listen to these long interviews of scientific researchers, and they go really into depth into stuff. And when I look at the 5-point propaganda of 6-foot rule, wear your mask, it treats us like idiots. When you actually listen to a real scientist go so deep, I mean, a lot of it, I listened to this 1-hour presentation by this dude, 98% of it was over my head, and I got his conclusion, so I watched the dumbed-down version later and I go, oh, that's what he's talking about. And I guess what I would say is everything that I've seen is opposite from what we're told to do. Latest thing I came across was what's called the Great Barrington Declaration. Oxford medical professor, Harvard medical professor, Stanford medical professor, they go, our advice for the coronavirus is go ahead, live your lives as normal, protect the vulnerable. Wash your hands, stay home if you're sick. And there's some people that disagree, but here's what I think about. You can take any experts, you can find experts, they're going to disagree with each other. You're always going to have the spectrum, right? So we got to figure out, well, what kind of life do we want? When people come to visit Alaska, hi, welcome to Alaska, let's stick a thermometer up your butt, lock you to your hotel room door for 3 days and make sure you're safe. It's like, that is not the community we want to live through or live in. I would just say that this virus is not acting the way it's marketed. I was coming back from Valdez, I drive a semi, I was in Glen Ellen, hose broke and I had to fix the thing. It's probably a 8-minute job. It took me 35 minutes because every time you step out, it's 43 below. You go inside, you're warming up your fingers. The way we're told this virus is going to spread if we don't do all this thing, if it worked that way, it would be like being outside in 40 below in your underwear or falling in the drink in 40-degree water. Unless you're Wim Hof or Harry Houdini, you die, in whatever the allotted time is. It's not doing that. I would suggest there's tens of thousands of people walking around free like this, following the advice of doctors from Harvard, Stanford, Oxford, and they're absolutely just fine. So my takeaway is please find credentialed experts who 100% disagree with you, put it on a public forum, hash it out for better public policy.
Thank you, sir. Hi, good evening. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Erica Johnson. I speak to you today regarding the effect of defining the COVID situation as an emergency and its powerful influence on fear on our community. I will specifically focus on my role with children. Balancing the demands of my child's school and work is overwhelming. Though emergency orders did not directly shut down ASD schools, the fear caused by a perceived emergency keeps them shuttered. My homeschooling background and job flexibility helps me fare better than most Title I school parents. Yet COVID has killed no one under 18. The vast majority of teachers and kids want to return, as do the parents. Did you know Alaska and Anchorage has the highest rate of child neglect associated with parental substance abuse and domestic violence in the nation? You should know that. You live here. You're leaders. Typically, those are less clear and more nebulous reports towards child protection authorities. They are typically given the lowest priority of response time in any child protection agency in the nation to investigate, and even could not be investigated if there was an emergency. And typically, most reports nationwide are made by the school. And since teachers in Anchorage aren't seeing these kids, it begs the question, is there a large swath of children that are not being seen by anyone other than their violent and substance abusing parent? Lastly, I speak to you as a youth coach in illustrating the positive power of connection. This summer, I ran a successful youth beach volleyball program. People followed our COVID mitigation plan. We had 0 reports of COVID in kids or families. Certainly no hospitalizations. My sessions were sold out. Kids and parents thanked me. Kids needed to be outside, moving their bodies, connecting in safe ways with others. This is what you should be promoting. Health and wellness, not fear. Though you might think you might have curtailed a dangerous spread of COVID with the use of emergency powers, I ask you to look closely and see what you've really accomplished. Fear, the most divisive dynamics between citizens and politicians than any other time, and a widening chasm of despair for Anchorage's most vulnerable and hidden children. Though COVID case counts keep escalating, the death rate does not, particularly for those with comorbidities. Despite being one of the most tested cities in the nation, Anchorage COVID deaths account for less than 1% of our population. The real emergency are the problems that is created by this emergency. It's time to repeal this as an emergency. It's time to focus on strength, health, wellness, and Anchorage's potential. You've been elected to lead. Do so with confidence and hope, not with fear.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I actually have a question for you. Ma'am, I have a question for you from Ms. LaFrance. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, I just wanted to say hi, Erica. Thank you to you and your family for being here, and thank you for the important work you do in the community.
Thank you.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kate Ariola, and I was sitting out in the parking lot watching and listening in on this meeting on my iPad, and I heard a previous speaker wonder out loud as he turned around and looked at the audience and wondered if the supporters that are here to encourage you, who are our elected officials, he wondered if all of us that are coming in offering support, if you got our phone numbers and called us and asked us to come down. Well, I'm here to testify, you don't have my phone number. So we can dismiss that one. But I am very concerned, and like everybody else in this community and around the state, the nation, I take this COVID-19 very seriously. I think wearing masks sucks, but for the time being, I think that we do have to be the adults and follow what the national experts are recommending. And then if the governor refuses to implement those recommendations, then we have to do it ourselves. But we also need your support to protect this community because that's what you were elected to do. I've had 2 family members in the lower 48 that have died in the last 2 months from COVID, so that is real. I loathe when I hear people stand up in public and minimize the deaths of the people that have died here in Alaska and the 215,000 that have died nationwide. Those people need to be on their hands and knees, kissing the graves of all those that have passed on. And thank God that they didn't get the virus and that their family members are alive, their friends are alive and doing well. So that just gets under my burr. I can't stand listening to that kind of rhetoric. Also, in defense of the mask, there's people out across the nation and even outside our nation that are being innovative on how to wear masks. There's a big menu out there, manufacturers, and as a matter of fact, I got innovation in the mail today that I ordered. And it's just a little plastic cup that fits over your nose and mouth, fits over your mask, and it does 2 things. It keeps your glasses from fogging up, and I've missed wearing lipstick for the last 8 months. So that was my bonus. So again, I encourage you to protect this community. I am well aware of the squeaky wheel that's out, organized squeaky wheel that's out in this community. There's the same group that show up in pockets. They're anti-mask, they're anti-this, they're anti-that. And I just say that, you know, it's the community as a whole. And my advice to you, don't give that squeaky wheel any grease.
Thank you, ma'am. Come on down, sir.
Hello, Assembly.
Since the beginning of history, when humanity is faced with a crisis, the young...
Sir, can you state your name for the record?
Oh, I am sorry.
Sorry.
Please forgive me. And again, I actually want to start off with, thank you guys for your service. I respect the seats that you guys fill. If there are disagreements, that is to be understood, but I respect the seat and I respect the ability for me to talk. So my name is Scott Sickinga, for the record, and I'm a resident of Anchorage. Since the beginning of history, when humanity is faced with a crisis, the young and the healthy have been given the responsibility to step forward to keep the economy or homeland safe. Broad mandates rob the ability of the young and the not at risk of the ability to keep the economy running. Everyone is informed of the risk of the virus. Please lift the mandates and let us have the freedom to make our own decisions. In my experience, Alaskans are some of the toughest people here in all of America. And we are going to get through this. And there are those that are, and some of them my friends, that are highly at risk. And I totally understand them staying home. And they're smart people. They stay home. They do the social distancing and stuff. We are capable of making decisions ourselves. And the mandates speak down to us like small children. And I don't think it is bruising the trust of the people of your city towards you as the assembly every time you implement those. And my serious fear is that in doing that too much, you're going to create a situation where you have the little boy who cried wolf. That in the future, we do have a pandemic-style virus come out, and those type of regulations do become necessary, which I don't think that COVID, we weren't sure at first, and I think a lot of the mandates that you guys made were justified. But now that we are informed, we are pushing beyond just a mistake and into suppression. And it is ruining the city's trust of you guys as the assembly. And it hurts me as a Anchorage resident to see it happening. So in order to prevent you guys having the situation where we do have a worse virus that comes out, let's say starts killing 50% of the people that contract it. If you guys suppress the people to the point where they break your trust and a worse virus is to come out, the trust is broken, more lives will be lost when people don't listen to you. Please, please do not cry wolf if this isn't as bad as it is. You need to allow the people who are educated to make our choices, open the city up. I have other things to say, but I'm down to 1 second. Thank you.
You, sir. Welcome. Hi again.
Hello, my name is Roy Witchers, and I'm glad to have another chance to talk to you, and I hope you understand. We were very passionate earlier this week, because of so many things that have changed in the state. I mean, I'm a constitutionalist, basic, freedom, liberty, and that means government it comes from the people. I mean, my family goes back to the 1600s here. Mother of the Revolution. I marched with Martin Luther King when I was a kid. Civil rights, civil activism, all through my DNA. But when government goes to the point of telling people, you have to do this, you have to do that, this is not the state, the country, or anything any of us would want to live in for very long. I mean, we have to go back to what our founders, everybody's gone through pandemics and all sorts of emergencies, catastrophes. How many this year? Still going on in California, all over the country. Yet, because of the principles of our country, we've gotten through every one of them, and without really bad revolutions, or like China's. What happened with China or Russia, 40 million, 30 million. I mean, Europe, Asia, my God, come on. This is a good country. We're founded on the right principles. We need to stand on those. And I hope I can work with you guys I'm not against you. But right now, we get the feeling you're against us. And that hurts. And that gets the passion going. Our schools are shut down. Kids aren't getting their education. And I mean, this is time, it's like jail. You're taking chunks of their lives out of their life. You're taking it. And the mask mandate, same thing. You're taking liberty and freedom away from people. That's not up to a body that's elected by the people. It's up to everybody in this city, everybody in the state, our country. Man, we're in the most divisive election ever. I've been around a lot. I've been in the state since 1974, and it's not the same state. It's the Simpsons. Everything's backwards. And I don't mean to get mad, but it's
Thank you,
passion,
sir.
okay?
Did you want to wrap
Take
up?
care.
Go ahead and wrap up. Okay. Thank you so much for your testimony. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Blake Witchers, for the record. First of all, I would like to state that we should probably let people have their own decisions and pretty much just let people decide what they want to decide. Just don't force them to wear a mask, limit restaurant capacity, because everyone here wants freedom of choices. Anyway, the second thing I would like to state, and a lot of you guys know this, but there's some people in the audience and over Anchorage that probably doesn't know this, but I would like to state about, pretty much talk about APOX. It's pretty much a website, or really, it's pretty much just a website which will tell you each candidate and state senator's record about everything. The federal, the local. Yeah, it'll pretty much just tell each candidate the record, the whole record. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your testimony. Come on down. Hi, welcome.
Hello, my name is Amber Glasser. You know, a lot of people have said a lot of really great things here tonight. It's really hard for me to be in front of you guys. I wrote some stuff down. I like to talk from my heart. It's just, like I said, it's really hard. So I'm going to share some things with you about me. And I want you to continue to evaluate yourselves. Your actions and the amount of love you bring to the table truly matters. I want you to stop lying to us, stop disrespecting us. It's simple to follow the golden rule. Have any of you missed a paycheck since this started? The rest of the Anchorage citizens can't say they haven't because of what you do and say. I've been in Alaska since I was in the 5th grade. I moved here from Northern California because my family had fallen apart. My parents were unstable and on drugs. Kids need to be in school. If I didn't have school or my counselors, I wouldn't be standing here right now. You're making mistakes. Please let me remind you that trauma is generational and children make the same mistakes that their parents do if we don't stop the cycle. I'm stopping the cycle. I came to Alaska to live with my biological father and stepmother. It didn't go great. I was suicidal and living a life full of grief because my baby sister had just died and I was separated from my brother who was 5 years old. I've spent most of my life here in Alaska. I know and love Alaska. And after 11 and a half years of working at Simon & Seaforth's, they tried to fire me and tried to get me to resign because of my refusal to wear a mask. The mandate doesn't protect women like myself from having to relive violent acts that they experienced in their past. The mandate and emergency orders do not protect working mothers like myself from losing their job. My husband is born and raised here. His mother is born and raised here. Her mother, born in Kodiak, full-blooded Aleut, born and raised here. I was conceived on Kodiak Island. My dad was in the Coast Guard. I have a lot of history in Alaska, and I love Alaska. And what you're doing to my city hurts me at the core. My father-in-law moved here at 16. He worked for the cannery and worked his way onto a fishing boat. He's been putting blood, sweat, and tears into this state to make it better for future generations most of his life. Please start listening to us. The majority of people do not want a vaccine for a virus that has over a 98% chance of survival depending on your age. For a vaccine to be safe and effective takes a minimum of 2 years. Suicide's gone up, and we already have the highest suicide rate in the country. My friend Corey, 26 years old, killed himself 7-8 weeks ago. My father, 60 years old, spent 5.5 days in the hospital alone before he died this June because of COVID. Marvin Abbott spent 30 nights sleeping on the lawn of Providence Hospital waiting to be with his daughter and someone to do the right thing.
Thank you for your testimony. Sir, before you begin, just give me a moment. I just wanted to remind my colleagues that this meeting will end in 5 minutes unless we have a motion to extend. Go ahead. Oh, Mr. Weddleton?
There you go. Move to extend at least 3, 6, 7 minutes.
Second. How many minutes was that, Mr. Weddleton?
8.
Okay, extended to 8:08 p.m. And you second that, Ms. Allard?
Yes, Chair.
Is that you? Is there any discussion? Mr. Perez-Verdia? No?
No.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, is there any objection to extending to 8:08? Okay, go ahead, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is William Topol. I've been up here quite a bit in the last few months, especially since we've been allowed to get back into the assembly chambers. I've lived in Anchorage for over 50 years now. And I agree with a lot of the sentiments that have been expressed here tonight and have been expressed over the last several weeks and several months. I will at another time address some of those issues in a different way for myself. But I want to focus on something tonight because we have a new chair of the Assembly. Congratulations on assuming your new position, Ms. Quinn Davidson. And let me offer some constructive criticism that might help us reach a new reset for everybody, hopefully. When I was younger, but still an adult, I used to go to the Borough Assembly meetings on Tudor Road, which used to be the APD place for a while before they got a new APD place. But anyway, I was here before there was a Borough Assembly. The people voted in a Borough Assembly. After that, they voted to unify into a municipality. Okay? No more city council, no more unorganized borough, organized borough. And I've noticed the trend in the devolvement in regards to public participation and how the Assembly treats the public in this process. I've noticed this recently. And I'd like to address that in the form of constructive criticism. During public hearings, yes, you're entitled and allowed to ask the public questions that might help for you to understand their perspective on a matter. But when it comes to the public participation part of the agenda, and tonight it's called audience participation because it's a special meeting, that's the public's time. Okay? Let the public have their time. Now, if you really feel you need to ask some questions, may I suggest, with all due respect again, that you give the public more time in this process, okay? You were supposed to represent us. You're not our leaders. You are our representatives. So let me encourage you in that role. Political science is my minor, by the way. So whenever there's public participation on the agenda, let us have our time, please. Again, if you need to extend the whole time, I know you can't do it at the beginning of the Assembly meetings because you only have a 45-minute block. But what happened Tuesday, it wasn't cool. You did some business here, Assembly business. You took into our time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, welcome.
Hi, this is my first meeting. My name is Delana Sprinkle. I'm a little nervous.
Don't be nervous. Welcome.
I just want to say that I've sat real quiet and watched, and some of you are really attentive. A few of you are just totally disrespectful. Like, I feel like you're just like off somewhere and really don't care what people are saying. But I'm really new at this, and I'm not going to yell at you or anything. I'm just going to ask you, please listen to what the people are telling you. I came in, and you guys voted on something, and now you're taking public testimony. Isn't that a little backwards? I mean, I'm new. I'm asking. You know, I want to be more involved in what's going on, but I do see like a majority overruling 2 or 3 people, and really that's our fault because people voted the way that you're in. And I'm not going to call you guys leaders because you're not. You are our employees. And it seems to me that you guys have forgotten just who's supposed to be working for who here. I mean, you know, please just think about what the people are saying. They just want to work and earn a living. I look forward to listening to you guys more and getting to know how your process works more, because I think it's kind of backwards. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, ma'am. Welcome.
My name is Stephanie Williams. The only thing that I just wanted to come up here and bring up, it kind of came to me as the mom back there was speaking about raising her children here and the struggle she was having. And there have been several people that have talked up here about being single moms and the struggle they face. My biggest concern is that I'm guessing that about half of you don't have children. And I think it's very odd that people who don't have children and don't have the responsibility of raising children get to make the decisions that affect children. So I think you might want to ponder that and not try to lean on your expertise when you have none in that arena. That's all.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to give testimony? Ma'am, you've already testified this evening. You cannot testify again.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Ma'am, I'm going to remove you from the building if you do not take a seat. Security, I'll need to have this woman removed from the building. Would anyone else like to testify? Ma'am, you're going to get removed from the building. Great. Oops, shouldn't have done. Okay. Come on down. Come on down. We have about 4 more minutes, 5 more minutes. Go ahead and hit your mic. There's a yellow button. Go for
All
it.
right. So this is my first time testifying. I'll keep it short. Angela Sherman. And I gave some really deep debate about this. So I just feel that I need to say that we're going back to school for pre-K through 2nd grade pretty soon. And I'm a teacher working in one of those low-income neighborhoods. And like many people I've heard, it's their safe place. It's their place where they're going to have consistent food for breakfast, for lunch, and for routine. It's been hard working with the kids on Zoom. It really has. And I'm a special education teacher, so that makes it even more difficult to get them focused and everything else. So I've heard from a lot of friends and of other people in the community just to voice their concerns. And with the community that I work in Fairview. They can't afford, you know, the private school and everything else. So I do appreciate that we're going back, even though it's pre-K through 2nd grade. And of course, with the PPE in place and everything else that we can do to keep everyone safe. But I do feel like if we open it up for everybody with the proper, you know, following what we need to do to be safe, I think it's just going to be so much better for a lot of the students. I've had friends and other people and talking about like the mental health of a lot of the students and connecting with their friends, and some of them are having a really hard time. I mean, hard times to where they're very, very concerned with their like mental health safety, the safety of their physicalness, to where, you know, they had to have a well check, and that really concerns me. So, I mean, that's all I wanted to share, but, yeah.
Thank you. I have a question for you,
I just
for Mr. Counsel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say thank you for serving the kids of Fairview. They need your attention and love, and it's clear that you have it, so thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome, sir, and we'll go ahead and conclude after your testimony.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Vince Beltrami. I hadn't planned on coming up to talk, but just thought I would since there was a couple minutes extended. I know there's a lot of frustration in the community. I understand it. You know, I think you guys have taken very difficult decisions to try to do what's best for this community. And I know that you all are dedicated public servants, and that when you hear people coming up here, you know, one after another and saying you are not listening to your constituents, I don't believe that for a second. Because you've got a loud bunch of folks who are upset showing up, and that's fine. But I think the overwhelming majority of the people that elected most of you to office here support that you're trying to protect this community. I happen to be married to a woman who has severe asthma. She's got other respiratory issues. She's been holed up essentially for the last 7-8 months, just like everybody else. She's carving pumpkins with our grandkids tonight at very big risk to herself because she is one of those who's highly at risk. But she does go out. When she does, she always has a mask on. I've heard people say that people with asthma can't wear masks and breathe and talk. Well, that's not the case with her. And she can, and she does, but she does it responsibly. But I wanted to just thank you for your service. I know a few years ago, actually, before any of you were on this assembly, and I've been coming in here for, 20, 25 years, there was a huge issue with an assembly that was in the other direction, I'd say, politically, AO 37. We had union members showing up by the thousands over weeks, testifying in a line that went out the hall. Nobody could park because the traffic was going round and round and round. And for all those weeks that people testified, everybody came in here and was respectful. They testified. They let people know how they felt. They didn't threaten anyone, whether it was in here or in the parking lot or through emails or over the phone. And I would just like to encourage the citizens of this great city to air your grievances, but do it with respect, okay? Because you guys are sitting up here and getting annihilated by all these folks, and I don't think you deserve that. Because I think you all show up here trying to do what's best for this community and for our families, and I support everything that you guys have been trying to do. Nobody likes this. Nobody wants to go through this, but we want to make our community safer. I've heard expert after expert, doctors and scientists say people are going back too quick. If you look at other states where their infection rates are all of a sudden jumping up again, let's not be hasty. I appreciate all you do. Thank you for giving me the time, and congratulations to you, Austin Quinn Davidson.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Don't need to.
Second.
It's over.
Thank you.